This video is part of the FERNWEH Quilt Along, but we are kind of between weeks. We are in the middle of week 2 as I record this, and I'm going to post this video during week 2. Got a handful of questions about lining up those seams, and I kind of wanted to do a little troubleshooting video between the weeks, right? So just in case you're getting started with making your blocks and you're having a little bit of trouble, I'm hoping this video will kind of address some of that. So let's kind of dig into that. This is the version 2 block, but even if you're making version 1, the pieces kind of are falling in the same place. So the area that I've gotten some questions about, or the seams that I've gotten some questions about, is this one right here, this one right here, and this one right here. And that would be here, 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 you know, on all 4 of those corners. So the snowball units coming out at the right place, and then the same when you start sewing your row 1, row 2, and row 3 together, right there. Last Friday I put out the demo for the block, and I didn't really address these seams. And the reason I didn't address those seams is because I'm not doing anything special to get them to be right on point. You definitely can. I found it very difficult to pin it right here and get it to come out right every single time. So instead, my focus has been making sure that I do my snowballs the way I showed you in the video. I'm pressing all of my fabric before I ever cut the pieces. I'm making sure that my when I draw my lines down the diagonal on those squares, that I'm putting that line directly into the corners. And my placement of that square is right there flush with this square. I'm pressing, you know, just so, things like that, because if you want something to look just so, you know, you've got to do just so. So that's what I'm doing to ensure that these seams come out at the right place. I'm not doing any special pinning to get it. All of mine aren't coming out perfectly, but I will say that most of them are. Every now and then I get one that's just really, really off. I haven't had one off so badly that I wanted to redo it. But if you're a brand new quilter, being just so with your snowballs, you know, could be new to you, and you don't know to treat them like they're precious little babies, because snowballs, if you don't treat them that way, they get finicky, all right? So I'm going to show you a demo now for what it would look like if you did pin this seam right where you want it to meet. I'm going to show you that demo, but I do want to clarify that I'm not doing that on my own blocks. So it's there for you if you want to use it, and, you know, skip it if you don't want to use it, which is what I'm doing. I just feel like I'm better off making better snowballs than doing this, but only you know what's right for you. So I'm just putting that out there. All right, so let me show you that. Okay, here's one of the tips that I wanted to show you. And on this step, you know, we're turning this row 1 to row 2 of our corner units, and we want to get this one, you know, lined up with this one. So go ahead, like I showed you, and get that middle seam lined up, and then get this one over here on this end put together and pinned. All right, now this is where some of you asked for additional help. I just kind of get it down there and, you know, pin this end. But if you're finding that your snowball units aren't coming out exactly right, and you want to pin this just so, this and this, look, that's where I want your eyes to look. And you want to line those up. They should be, you know, they're both 1/4 inch long, or should be. And you want to make sure that those are stacked really nicely on top of each other, just like that. All right, and again, this is just if you need that additional help. I haven't been doing this. So put that there. and then put your pin right into those stitch lines right there. Now, I've been doing it, I haven't been doing it like this. Like I said, I've been trusting my snowball making, but if you're a beginner, snowball making can be very, very finicky and hard to grasp right away. You are going to get better, you know, the more snowballs you make, and they're in so many quilt patterns. So you're going to be making these again and again and again in your quilting life, and you're just going to get better, and you're just, all right, so now when I sew this together, it should, you know, open up at just the right place, and it should line up perfectly. Let's go and test this out. So we're all sewn, and then I'm gonna open this up like that. And you know, I can already open it up and tell you that that little bit of extra pinning, you know, did the job. But let's just go ahead and press it open and make sure. And this doesn't always work out. Like, I mean, sometimes the seam does not match up, and it can be from a variety of reasons that we're talking about in this video today, the reasons why it's not matching up. So I don't want you being hard on yourself about it. Sometimes you just let these things go. And for example, this one, I did the exact same thing in the pinning, just to show you that, look at how close I've got it, but it's still off, and I did the exact same thing. So instead of pinning it like that, of course, you know, if that's what you want to do, if you want to pin it just so, pin it just so. But I feel like my time is better spent making sure that I get really, really good, like I follow all of my snowball rules, right? I press before, I starch and press before I cut. Then, you know, I'm starching at all the levels, I'm setting all my seams, I'm pressing just so. And I feel like that, you know, helps me a little bit more than, say, pinning just so. So I just want to show you all of these are blocks that I've not pinned that seam into place. And I just want you to see it's still, it's not spot on, but it's so close that you would never even, you know, you wouldn't say, oh, I got to do better than this, right? It's good enough. All right, so let me just kind of go through these blocks with you and show you. Well, that one's really good too. And again, these are blocks that I did not pin just so. I just followed all my snowball rules. So that one looks really good too. And see, I showed you kind of how you can pin to get this one just so. When we're sewing these two squares together, you would do the same thing for this one. I didn't show that one, but it's the same thing. Again, when I'm making these blocks, I'm not doing that. But if that's there for you if you want to. If you are wanting to pin that in place, pin that in place. I haven't found that it gets that seam spot on 100% of the time. I'm finding it gets that seam spot on, I don't know, I would say around 90% of the time. I feel like I do much better not pinning it in place. But like I said, we're all different and we're all better at certain things. So do what's, you know, best for you. If you're wanting to get better at your snowball making, I know sometimes, especially if you're coming from a more relaxed place of quilting, sometimes all those tiny things like starching like crazy, pressing your seams just so, you know, sometimes that can feel like a little too much. But if you're finding that you really want that seam to match up and you're not getting it, then ask yourself, if you're doing all of those steps, did you starch before you ever cut your pieces? Is your diagonal line that you're drawing going directly into those corners of that square? When you place the little square on top of the big square to sew on that diagonal, are you placing it flush into the corner of that square where those ends meet up? Because that kind of matters. Are you setting those seams between all of those steps? Because setting your seams seems a little extra, but it makes it so much easier to get that precision when you do it. Are you starching all over the place? Again, that also just makes it so much easier to get precision. I know it's a lot of extra stuff, but if you want to have precise sewing, precise blocks, these are the kind of things you got to do for it. Now, doing all that extra stuff may not be for you, and that's okay too. If you do not care about your seams, don't care on my account. But if you have questions and that seam is constantly coming out right, give those extra steps a try and see if they work for you. That being said, they don't work 100% of the time, but they work most of the time, or that's how it is for me. They work most of the time. Eventually, especially if you're new, eventually you're going to get so good at making snowballs that you're not going to think. You're going to know exactly how to get your seams coming out right every time, the pattern gives you a step to do. It just kind of happens. The more you do something, the better you get at it. So if you're new and you're not getting that seam perfect, either redo it or give yourselves a break and let it go. Mine are not coming out perfect 100% of the time, but most of the time I'm either getting it really good or getting it really close to good, and I'm letting it be. I haven't re-sewn any yet because of that seam. But you decide what's best for you. I will see you this coming Friday when we begin week 3.